Hi, I'm Matt Collins. I'd like to welcome you to Bob Weber Auto Mart on Douglas Avenue here in Racine, across from Douglas Park. We specialize in 1-year-old, low mileage, almost new cars. And if you'd like to stop by and see them, or see them on our website, bobweberautomart.com, we could save you between $5,000 and $10,000 on your next almost new car purchase.
I'm Michael Burke, and this is Money Talks. Hi, we're at Financial Service Group with Justus Morgan, one of our money columnists for the Journal Times. Thanks again for being on the show, Justus. And today, I think we're going to be talking about a topic, well, I know we're talking about a topic that a lot of people can take an interest in, and that is when to collect Social Security. The baby boom, just before the show, our producer Scott Anderson looked up, he Googled baby boom, and it appears the sort of semi-official years of that were 46 to 1957. And so even at the later end of that, you've got people who are about 56 years old or so, half a dozen years or so from when they should start thinking about maybe collecting Social Security, maybe not. So that's our topic. Justus, how many people are now collecting Social Security?
Yeah, Mick, right now about 46 million people are currently collecting Social Security benefits just for the retirement component.
Wow.
So that's
an amazingly big fraction of the U.S. population. And what's the average amount per month that people are getting?
So right now the average monthly benefit is about just over $1,200. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of people, that represents close to 40% of their income when they're retired. So there's a lot of people collecting it, and it represents a good chunk of their income, which is why I think it's such an important topic to.
And I'm sure there are a lot of people where it's a lot more than 40% of their income too, for those living closer to the edge.
For sure.
This may be a good time to talk about how that amount is determined.
Right, so everyone's benefit's a little bit different because it's based on your actual earnings. So there's a fairly complicated formula that Social Security uses.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, right? And long story short, it looks at about the last 35 years of your earnings to come up with a formula that determines your benefit at your full retirement age.
So in the last 35 years, that's quite a concept, because if you were to start collecting it at 65, that means from age 30 on, your earnings, they count toward this thing.
That's right. And so folks who don't have 35 years worth of earnings, they'll have some zeros thrown into the equation. So that's going to be a reduced benefit than somebody who's accumulated or worked for the entire 35 years.
Mm-hmm. So the message there is make a lot of money.
I suppose.
And don't take years off when you don't earn anything. This was probably a good time to talk about some just really basic definitions as we get into the subject of thinking about when you should start collecting. So, and I'll let you define them one by one, but what's the minimum age where under normal circumstances you could collect?
Yeah, so there's a number of key ages. Typically the earliest is going to be age 62. For most people, there are exceptions for widows, and it's age 60, or if there's
widowers too, right?
Widowers as well. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's children in the home still, then even earlier. But typically, age 62 is going to be the earliest.
Okay.
That most people are eligible.
Now that doesn't mean a full benefit, as we're going to get into now. So, what is the age of what is considered the full retirement age? And that's a term we'll use numerous times here, full retirement age. Yeah,
there's a couple of key words that Social Security uses in a lot of their information. Full retirement age is one of those. For most people today, that's age 66 or later. So it actually depends.
No longer 65. That was sort of the old gold standard.
Correct. So that's been phased out. Age 65 is still relevant for Medicare health benefits, but when it comes to Social Security retirement benefits, it's age 66 or even later. So some of the the younger generations, it's as late as 67 now.
Do you know where the break-off point is between 66 and 67?
It's phased, so there's increments. So it could be 66 in 1 month for some people, 66 in 2 months, all the way out to age 67.
Okay, so basically it's in that pocket of 66 to 67 where you can draw the full benefits that you've earned over those past 35 years.
Correct.
Let's go back to 62. What if you can't wait to retire and you just, at 62, you've got money socked away, it's time to travel with a wife or whatever, what happens then?
Right, so anytime before your full retirement age, you can start collecting benefits as early as 62, and the benefit is going to be reduced. And it's reduced for each month prior to full retirement age. So somebody who starts right away at 62, their benefit is going to be about 25% less than somebody who waited until their full retirement age.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it also works in the other direction. So somebody who waits past their full retirement age can actually get more than their normal benefit. And those increases are approximately 8% a year all the way until age 70. So really the range of ages is anywhere from 62 to age 70. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the typical ages we look at.
You said 8%, is that a fixed number or does that vary because of something or other?
It does vary a little bit. It's a lower percentage before full retirement age, and it actually is 8% between age 66 and age 70.
Okay. So again, let's just to reiterate, because that's really an important concept. Let's say an example here: the person is eligible at 66, but they say, no, I want to build up that monthly benefit, so when I start drawing on it, it's going to be better for me. For every year, that adds 8% to what that benefit's going to be. So does that mean 32% over the 4 years if they can wait all the way to age 70?
That's correct.
What about inflationary factors?
Yeah, so that's another important component, because whenever you start collecting, your future adjustments are based off of that particular amount. So if you start collecting early, then the future inflation is going to be based on that lower amount versus waiting until age 70. So you get 132% of your full retirement benefit, plus those future inflation adjustments are on that higher base.
Mm-hmm.
So
they don't cut into that 32%. So if you can possibly wait till 70, you're increasing your monthly benefit by a good third or more.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So those are kind of some of the basic scenarios. Now we can maybe turn to some of the factors that would lead a person one way or another, or right down the middle of the road here. How do you, obviously the need for an income, a Social Security income, is going to be huge, right?
For sure.
How badly you need it?
Yeah, so there's a number of factors to consider. So, and this is probably one of the most frequent questions we get asked is, when should I start Social Security? And the short answer is it depends. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it depends on a number of different factors. Perhaps one of the more important ones is what you just touched on, is that need for income. Some people, when they retire, their only source of income or their primary source of income is going to be Social Security. So this idea of waiting until 70 to collect a higher benefit,
it's just not realistic.
It's not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
So that need for income is a crucial factor that needs to be considered, I think, first.
I'm sure there are people in this country who they need to start collecting at 62, right? You probably don't meet a lot of those people. They're probably not seeing financial counselors, but there must be people who just need to tap in, even though it's at a lesser amount, right?
And there can be different reasons why they need to start at 62. If they're unable to continue working, if there's some flexibility and they're really cutting things that close where they absolutely need every penny that Social Security is going to represent, they may want to look at continuing to work a bit longer, just to give themselves a little bit more flexibility and room. Mm-hmm. So I think that is really important.
So if you can go past 62, that's kind of a no-brainer, right?
Typically, but there's other factors to consider too.
Okay.
So another one of those would be life expectancy. I think that's probably the most important factor in that every year and even every month that you wait, you forego collecting that benefit. Yes, you're going to get a higher amount later on, but if you don't live long enough to benefit from that higher amount, then it doesn't make sense to wait. So that life expectancy is crucial. So for folks that either have poor health, if they've been diagnosed with a terminal illness, things of that nature, then we also look at collecting sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm. Of course, that's one of, you said it's maybe the most crucial factor, and it's probably the most unknowable of them too.
It is, yeah. It's very difficult to quantify what your life expectancy is. You can certainly look at your current health. You can look at family history, right? So if you've got, your parents lived into their 80s, or if you've got grandparents that lived that long or later, chances are you've got pretty good genes on your side. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we want to take into consideration.
For those who come from really long-lived families, in 95 and even above, do you ever run out of Social Security checks coming in the mail?
You don't. So that is one of the main benefits of Social Security. So one of the biggest fears we hear from people is, I don't want to run out of money, right? And chances are they're not going to run out of money in the next 5 years, the next 10 years. But when you start looking out 20, 30, maybe 40 years, the amount of uncertainty that's out there continues to increase. So Social Security actually helps to reduce some of that uncertainty by continuing to pay those benefits that are also inflation adjusted for the next 30 or 40 years.
Mm-hmm. So you can't outlive Social Security.
Under the current rules, that is correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, when you're looking at life expectancy, is there, you had mentioned something about a sort of a midpoint or a tipping point or a balancing point or something. You want to explain that?
Yeah, a lot of the analysis is done looking at a break-even point, which means if you don't live past a certain age, you're better off collecting earlier versus you live past that break-even age and you will accumulate more benefits even though you've delayed receiving those benefits for a certain number of years.
And what's that age? Is it
it depends. So for most people, it's either late 70s, early 80s, depending on some of the assumptions in the analysis.
What are some of the other factors in trying to solve this complicated equation?
Yeah, so another really important factor is whether you're planning to continue to work. So typically we talked about retiring and then collecting, but a lot of people, even though they may retire from one job, they'll go on and do some other work, maybe pursue another career, another passion, or even just have some part-time work. Well, depending on how much you earn, you may have some of your benefits withheld if you're under your full retirement age.
You know what? I think that's a good point to leave it for now. We are going to pick it up in part 2 of our show, talking about work and how that affects Social Security benefits, both before full retirement age and after. So, Justus Morgan, we're at Financial Services Group. Thanks a lot for being on the show, and let's go into part 2.
Thank you.